Hey everyone, I wanted to make a basic tutorial on how to make your own glove. I'm going to be doing it with my teaser glove, the Just a Taste glove on my website. I figure it's generic enough to where anybody could take what I do here and use it. So I'm not going to be showing every piece. I already have the back plate cut out and bent, but I am going to be showing one stall, one tip. I'm going to be showing how I braze the blade, solder the rings, and I'll show the final product. So what I use to cut my copper and brass is I use one of these for long straight cuts, and I use one of these, they're both tin snips, for general cutting. So right now I'm just going to cut the long straight pieces. It's not too hard, you just need to try to not actually lift back the tin snips, or else you may end up cutting another edge onto the metal. What I mean by that is, like, say I took this, stopped that cut, and then started another cut. Not sure if it's focusing, but you get this extra little piece of copper here that is not very nice. It's pretty easy to cut copper to thinner metals. Most of the screen used gloves were relatively thin metals, so you don't have to go for anything crazy thick for your first glove, or just any glove you want to make. So I got the straight line pieces cut out. Now I just got to go in and cut out these curves, which I will use the smaller tin snips for. And it's the same idea. You want to try to keep cutting in a straight line without actually pulling back or restarting a cut with the tin snips. You want to keep them as pushed into the cut as possible, so you don't end up with that extra little bit of copper that flares out. Still might happen, but you know, we got relatively close to where I wanted the actual cut to be. It is freezing in my garage right now. Alright, so the stall's cut out. Sometimes, most of the time, when you cut out a copper piece, you're going to end up with some raised or bent edges from where the tin snips cut. So what I typically do is I lay the piece on a flat piece of metal that I have laying around, and I just take a small hammer and I just tap the edges to make them flat, which will kind of show on the other side, but if you sand the other side, which most gloves you're probably going to sand them, then you won't notice it. This glove is going to be weathered really interestingly, so it won't matter. The way that I do the holes on these gloves is I have one of these, which is a hole punch for metal. But if you cannot afford one of these, because this particular tool is very expensive, this one I think is $120, you can find cheaper ones that aren't spring-loaded for somewhere around $20, $30. But if you don't have these, you don't want to look for one of those. Oh man, I should have organized. Then would it be a good idea to buy a center punch, which I have here somewhere. Well, I guess my tools don't exist, but I'll leave a link to, oh wait, nope, there it is. Wow, okay. So get one of these, which is a punch for putting a hole to guide a drill. It'll leave a nice indent. I'll see if I can show you. But you just put the metal on a flat surface and punch it, and it will leave a nice indent that you can just do a pilot hole and then a normal hole. It'll give you a nice clean hole. So now I'm going to do the tips. I'll do the holes after I cut out the tip. but I wanted to show that first. So the tips are a little bit harder to cut out because there's a little bit more curvature on them than on the stalls, but it's the same idea. Just don't get too loosey-goosey with your cuts unless you want to take your piece to a grinder afterwards, in which case cut it however the hell you want. This particular glove has some very interesting stall and tip connection design, in that the holes that the tip and stalls connect to are exactly the same width, and this glove actually uses the tips as the stops for the tips moving backwards instead of using the blades for the stops, which, while the rest of the glove isn't anything amazing in design, probably more generic than a lot of people would like, I'd say that one aspect of it is pretty interesting. It's one of the reasons why I offer it. With most gloves, you won't have to deal with cutting out this weird straight line here that I'm dealing with, because most are curved instead of just a straight cut. Alright, now that's done. So with this hole punch, you can really easily see where this metal piece goes. That's the piece that actually cuts the metal. So you can really easily line it up with the hole. Punch it. Alright, so from this point, you could just bend your pieces if you wanted to, but I'm actually going to go in and do some cleanup because this is a quote-unquote template glove of this glove. I'll explain that in a later video. But I'm going to go in and do some extra cleanup, and then I will show the bending and then the brazing and ring soldering. So, see you in the next video.